So I'm very glad to be back with more Classic Who after some slight diversions. Quick shout out to everyone who uses this TV who requested that we review this sometime back before I got distracted by those damn Homo Aqua. But at least I got distracted by some classic monsters. Just ruined. But now we're able to shift gears and talk about another classic monster that only had one appearance in the classic series, but still shape-shifted their way into our hearts. Or at least Moffat's heart. He's the one that kept bringing them back. And Moffat knew what he was doing with them, considering the Zygon invasion and Zygon inversion were pretty good, all things considered, and gave us this speech.
When you fire that first shot, no matter how right you feel, you have no idea who's going to die. You don't know whose children are going to scream and burn. How many hearts will be broken? How many lives shattered? How much blood will spill until everybody does what they were always going to have to do from the very beginning? Sit down and talk!
But that's all new Who. What about that one classic Zygon story? Let's find out together as we watch and review Terror of the Zygons. Subscribe, or I'll let Evil Harry watch you while you sleep. This model of an oil rig gets its ass taken down. Hell yeah. Sorry, I tried to resist, but you show kick-ass explosions to an American like me, and I'm gonna have to stop and appreciate it. It's who we are. The Doctor, Sarah Jane, and Harry emerge from the woods in Scotland, and this grumpy old man gives them a lift. He'll be important later. Seems the Brigadier has summoned the Doctor to Scotland with some doohickey thing in case they need him. Everyone is addressed appropriately for the occasion, with the Brigadier in a kilt and the Doctor in a tam o'shanter. The Doctor is pretty annoyed the Brigadier has called him here to settle an issue with some oil rigs, but people are dying, so, you know, it. He's here already, so he'll help out. This guy, who looks like Ron Howard's brother Clint, is pretty baffled because these oil rigs aren't supposed to collapse, but the Doctor has already figured out it was some monster, because this isn't his first rodeo. Meanwhile, Sarah Jane interviews the guy who owns the place that Unit has shacked up in, and he's apparently one of those pantheon gods.
You also have second sight.
Well, I'm the seventh son of a seventh son.
With 7 sons of your own. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And lucky number 7.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
But unbeknownst to them, they were being watched by the Zygons, cause they've got little cameras in the deerhead's eyeballs on the wall. Elsewhere, Harry sees some dude in distress and goes to save him. Turns out this guy was on the oil rig and has been floating around out in the water for a few days and finally washed ashore and now is able to tell his tale of the sea monster that attacked the oil rig. That don't matter though. He just gets his ass shot dead, while Harry gets grazed in the head. The shooter was some big burly Scottish dude that's actually a Zygon, which you already figured out because you're not dumb. Harry's in the hospital, another oil rig gets taken down, and the Doctor makes some plaster of Paris teeth marks out of some holes from the wreckage. Harry wakes up, but he's in concussion protocol, so, you know, change your fantasy lineups. And the Zygon nurse attacks Sarah because it's the end of the episode and we need a cliffhanger. The Doctor heads over to the hospital, but Harry and Sarah are gone. He hears this bit of news from the world's most unpleasant nurse, who's not very good at hiding who she really is. Well, now come to think of it, she is Scottish, so being a bitch and slightly smirking like she's proud of it may be right in line with them being in Scotland. Anyway, the Doctor immediately finds Sarah because the Zygons can't be bothered to keep a guard on their prisoners, but then we find out they were just luring in the Doctor to lock him in the same room and turn on the gas. I guess the Zygons are lonely, so they bring Harry to their control room and tell him their entire history. You see, these Zygons were on a ship, and their ship got damaged. And that was centuries ago. And then their planet got destroyed, and they aren't gonna be rescued. So now they're gonna turn Earth into their new planet. This guy is Broton, and he's super confident about the Zygon's superior fleshlight technology and his underwater dinosaur. Broton has done the math. Organic controls that look like prolapsed anuses plus a kaiju equals world domination. Sarah Jane has the weirdest reaction to the gas.
Can't breathe.
And the doctor has the best response.
Shut up and save your breath.
So the doctor hypnotizes Sarah to stop breathing and inadvertently turns her into the mother of Generation X.
You feel nothing.
And then he makes this face.
Oh. You know what I'm talking about. Oh.
Unit gets gas too, but luckily Benton was over at the hospital and happened by the secret room that is used for, as the bitchy nurse put it, a decompression room for the divers, and turns off the gas. Everybody's gonna be okay! Clint Howard finds and gives the doctor the Zygon Trilatic Activator, which really pisses off Broton. So he has one of the Zygons turn into Evil Harry, and Evil Harry heads over to and steals the activator from Sarah Jane. She chases him into a barn, and he tries to kill her, but she just olays his ass off a ledge. The Zygons freak right the f*** out and disappear the body, but luckily, Sarah gets the activator back. So you know, they got that going for them, which is nice.
So I got that going for me, which is nice.
It starts moving around because Broton is pissed the doctor knows they've bugged Unit Base. So the doctor goes out to find the monster that this thing is trying to call. But that's not a good idea. Broton thinks the doctor is dead because he loses visual contact, which, by the way, is going to become a theme. So the doctor and company head over to the Duke's castle. They make fun of him for a bit. Then the best line in the whole show happens.
Perhaps you'd explain this intrusion.
Nobody opened the front door.
They tell the Duke that they have found the Loch Ness Monster and want to blow it the f*** up. He thinks they're crazy, but he does let them use his library. Of course, Sarah immediately finds a hidden passageway to the Zygon ship, and she immediately finds Harry. They escape, meet back up with the doctor, but he kind of wants to go into the ship, and so he does, and then everybody gets caught. So you know, that it's not good. It's actually fine because Broton and the Zygons just tell them what their evil plan is, and then leave, not taking Harry, Sarah, or the Brigadier as hostages. That proves to be a pretty dumb move because Unit just starts shooting artillery shells where the spaceship is under the lock, which makes them have to fly away. The Zygons throw the doctor in a cell while Harry and Sarah decide to do some light paperwork. The Zygons land and then get on the intercom of the ship and tell everyone that they're going to use half power now, even though there are quite literally only 3 or 4 Zygons on this ship. Broton shows off to the doctor, talking about how awesome his technology, shape-shifting, and his monster is. He basically tells the doctor his whole plan in a very old-school villain way that is kind of charming in a way because he's very smug about it, but also stupid as hell. So the doctor just starts fucking with their power on the ship that lets Unit know where he is. It hurts a little though. The Zygons give the doctor a little kick and figure he's dead. Spoilers, he's not, and maybe more of a medical check would have been a better plan here. But, you know, let Zygons be Zygons, I guess. They just leave him, so the doctor moseys out and saves all the humans and sets the ship to self-destruct. Which it does. Everyone figures out Broton is going to have the monster attack the Stanbridge house because the Prime Minister is going to be there for an energy conference, so they head to London. They make the 500-mile trip uber fast and easily find Broton hanging out in the back, and the Brigadier shoots his ass dead while looking like a badass doing it. That's how you shoot a little bitch, boys and girls. Full-on hip shots like a boss. The Doctor still has the trilatic activator thing, and since Nessie has come back up from the Thames, he throws that little thing in Nessie's mouth. And so Nessie heads back to Scotland. Unit cleans up the mess, considering a lot of people in London saw this thing and all, and everyone heads back to the TARDIS. Harry says he's done traveling with the Doctor, considering he's finally back with Unit, and Sarah and the Doctor go off for more adventures. The end. Well, I guess goodbye, Harry, for at least a couple of episodes, and goodbye, Brigadier, for quite a few years. Kinda sucks that this is the last story we'll see you in for a while, but let's go ahead and talk about the things that I liked. I liked Evil Harry. Evil Harry was one of the best things about this story. Look at him, walking in, being a dick to Sarah, stealing the thingamajig, then hiding in the hay like a damn serial killer, and then bull rushing himself into a suicide run off the ledge. That's what I'm talking about. Because Harry, I really don't like Harry.
Harry Sullivan is an imbecile!
I don't hate him, he's not Steven, but he's just kinda boring. Your standard male companion. Now, I don't mind a male companion. When it's done right, it really adds an interesting element to Doctor Who. But Harry's pretty vanilla. I actually would have loved to see Benton as the companion. That dude is pretty funny, and is always down to do whatever crazy-ass shit the Doctor wants to do. Benton would be less the boring-ass hero with a pole up his ass, and more the kick-ass beer-drinking frat buddy to the Doctor. So it was pretty fun to see Harry acting in a different way. It's too bad it ends 5 minutes after it starts, but it was a pretty fun 5 minutes. And since this was Harry's last turn as the companion, aside from a small role later on in the season and some crazy stuff in expanded media, it was cool to see Harry be something different for a little while rather than just a loaf of white bread that follows the Doctor around and usually gets captured. Sarah Jane is also pretty great in this episode. Now I know for most of you, that's pretty redundant. But I'm gonna go ahead and give an unpopular opinion here and mention that Sarah is not my favorite companion. Honestly, she barely makes my top 10. That doesn't mean I don't love her. Of course I do. But I kinda think she straddles the fence between independent companion and damsel in distress a little too much. I absolutely love her chemistry with all her Doctors, including her last, and I love how loyal she is to him. I love how she can give him shit and he just takes it because he respects the hell out of her. I love how when she left the TARDIS, it meant something, and the show took a little bit of time to acknowledge it. Not like Harry in this very episode just deciding, nah, I'm good, I'ma just hang here now. But for me, she's a little too perfect and a little too easily captured most of the time. I don't like the damsel in distress trope that Doctor Who has a lot of in the classic era. It gets grating just to watch the female companion get cornered and scream their head off time after time. And Sarah is good about the fact that she isn't Melanie and just screams and not do anything, but she still is pretty easily captured. Most of the time it's because she's trying to save the Doctor, but it wears a little thin after a while. Here though, she's peak Sarah. She's playing bull charge with Evil Harry, she's finding secret entrances, she's joking around during the playing of a Lament for the Dead. Yeah, she gets cornered, but she's fun and spunky and just has great chemistry with everyone. I don't want to give you guys the wrong impression because Sarah Jane Smith is Doctor Who royalty, and I don't really want to be excommunicated. I'm simply saying that the writers did right by her in this story, and because she's Elizabeth fucking Slayton, of course she knocked it out of the park. Things I didn't like. Good God, this thing is slow. I know this story is considered to be peak Doctor Who, and a lot of people love it, but this shit was boring most of the way through. I imagine probably a lot of that is due to the fact that they changed this to be a less Loch Ness Monster heavy story that was originally intended and made it more about the Zygons. It was the right call, but they kept a lot of boring shit in here. The Zygon subplot about the gas and spying on people with the deer head? Dude, nobody cares. That fuss bucket owner of the place Unit is in telling the whole town gossip and ghost stories? It's kinda useless because this isn't a straight horror Doctor Who story, and the only person that goes missing is some random Unit guy back in episode 1 that you immediately forget about. They got Sarah Jane reading books and typing a report in 2 different episodes. I get that people were excited about the Zygons. I would have been too. They got a pretty kick-ass power, and Broton is an interesting villain even without all the shape-shifting. Hell, the Loch Ness Monster is an embryo these dudes brought with them. But the problem with the Zygons is, in this story, they're all potential. And the show is not very interested in using that power to its fullest in this story. I'm glad Moffat saw something in the Zygons and used it to great effect in the Zygon invasion and inversion, but in this story, nothing about the shape-shifting is really explored. These ones even keep you in stasis while they're using your body print. And that's really just a mild inconvenience for the townspeople by the end of the story. And it's pretty easy to tell which ones are Zygons posing as humans because they act like f***ing weirdos the whole time. Honestly, this thing meandered about up until they blow up the spaceship and then they send Nessie to London. Great potential, but unfortunately that's all it was. I disagree fully with Philip Hinchcliffe's notion that this was the first episode where Tom Baker figured out how to play the Doctor. It's close. There's some really fun Tom Baker moments in this thing, like the Trippin' Balls hypnosis scene, and a few really great one-liners, but this wasn't full tilt Tom Baker being a bohemian Time Lord. Now, don't get me wrong, he's still great, and maybe I shouldn't have placed this point in the things I didn't like section of the review, but for me, he's just not alien enough yet. It's still early in his tenure, and he hasn't gone full Tom yet. And I really don't think Tom's Doctor works well being on the side of the military or with Unit. I know he and Nicholas Courtney kind of butted heads a little during the filming of this, and that sucks a lot, considering this is the last time the Brigadier is on the show for a long time, and because I love both of those actors. But if you look at the kind of character that Tom is playing with the Doctor, it just doesn't mesh well with Unit's more for Queen and country mentality. Times they were a changin', and Tom probably felt Unit was a holdover from Pertwee, and I think the world agreed. So, for whatever reason, the Doctor just kinda feels a little off in this story, and I didn't like it. Things I didn't understand. I don't understand Broton's plan. So, if I got this straight, Broton and the boys were zooming around in their spaceship and shit got broke and they had to crash land here on Earth. Now, the reason you haven't heard about this in the history books is because this happened centuries ago. So now they're just sitting here f***ed because the Zygons' home planet got wiped out and they're just stuck here on Earth for centuries. Oh, but they got this little embryo of an amphibian brontosaurus or whatever that apparently secretes milk that these creepy bastards drink. So they take care of him in the lock. Centuries later, humans build some oil rigs that's in the way of the natural migration of this Leviathan, so the Zygons control the thing and knock them down. In the meantime, these Zygons have infiltrated the nearby town and are cosplaying the local head of the clan and Duke, some battle-axe nurse, and William Wallace's best friend over here. This not been going on too long also because everyone stopped working for the Duke and now works for the oil company since he recently turned into an asshole. Of course, we find out the Duke is Broton. So, Broton, what the hell have you been doing all this time? What was your plan exactly? Because the one thing you've been doing besides piss off the town since you've been the Duke, that I've seen you doing, is making for sure nobody goes poking around in the lock and poo-pooing stories about Nessie. But as soon as Unit heads into town, you figure you got a monster in the water and can conquer the world? Broton, wouldn't this shit have been easier back in the 1400s? The f have you been doing this whole time? And Broton, why do you pick up the Doctor and his two companions when they're hitching a ride? Why do you let Sarah Jane just use your library that's connected to the cave that holds your spaceship? Why are you acting like a grumpy asshole to everybody? If your plan was to get to the little leadership meeting in London and sick your prehistoric reptile on dignitaries, I still fail to understand why it took you so long to enact your plans for world domination, or why you're letting people you are suspicious of ransack your office. Not every single one of my points is a winner, but instead of deleting them, like any good writer would do, I usually cut them and then paste them in a little place we call Nitpick Corner! Man, the Zygons really suck at keeping prisoners. Holy sh**, all throughout this thing they just refuse to post a damn guard. The nurse hides Sarah Jane in a room that's pretty easily opened up on one side, so much so Frank the Tank Benton over here could figure it out, and the damn nurse tells the Doctor about the room when he asks about it, and then she just walks away. And then nobody is watching the bodies that look like they're just hooked up to Apple Glass Gen 1 or something? Anyone is free to walk up and poke them with a stick. Then when you kidnap the Doctor, who at this point you fully understand is the real threat because he's the smart one, you throw him in a room, don't post a guard, and later literally watch him as he short-circuits your spaceship. What the hell, Zygons? I know there aren't that many of you, but maybe one or two of you could get your hands off the fleshy controller and watch the body prints so that you can go forward with your dominate the world with a dinosaur plan?
What's that? It was a gift from the Duke of Borgia.
All right, Mr. McReynolds. Keep your hair on.
Holy Benton, you were given an order. Look for bugs. Benton is literally looking right at the thing that he's supposed to find, that the Zygons are watching them on, and then the little gay shopkeeper's like, don't touch that, the Duke gave it to me. And Benton listens to him? Oh my god, dude. You know, earlier I was talking about how I wanted to see you as a companion, but now I'm kind of rethinking that because your dumbass is too easily distracted from obeying orders. I gotta say, the problem with Terror of the Zygons is in the unused potential. Without the Zygons, the episode would have just been one of those snooze fests you sometimes get with the show, with a few funny moments from the Doctor and a cool Loch Ness monster. But the Zygons have a lot of potential to do a lot of cool shit. Their shapeshifting really gets your imagination going on what could be. The problem is they don't do any of that in this story. Every time they do shapeshift, you immediately know it's them because the person acts like either a weirdo or an asshole. I kinda get why Moffat wanted to bring them back and give them a little justice. I give Terror of the Zygons a 5. The last episode really saves the shit out of this thing. It's too bad because this thing really could have been a lot more fun. Like, say, Horror of Fang Rock ends up being, with a similar premise. So, I got a very urgent request from a new subscriber to do Stones of Blood next time. So, I'm gonna capitulate and save Ticum Se Cristero from putting a comment on every single one of my reviews again and review that next time. You have proved once again that the squeaky wheel gets the grease, Ticum. And as always, asleep? Impossible. I was on duty. There are times, Salty Ham, when you do talk absolute nonsense. changes. Zygon changed his face. Changes. Evil Harry is staring at me from the hay. Changes. Zygon tagged to me. Looks like anuses. Somebody gonna go watch those hostages. Zygons changed me, but they suck this time. Okay, you made it to the end of the video. Look at you. I may not actually be there with you right now, but just so you know that somewhere out there, this little piggy went wee all the way home because of it. And as a reward, YouTube wants you to do the same with this video. I imagine it's pretty good, especially if it's one of my videos, but the only way for you to know is to click it. Click it, and be free, my friend. Bye! Anuses!